Welcome to the Peopleverse podcast. I'm Evan Troxel. In this episode, I have a conversation with Charisse Lakeside of RDH Building Science, live in the tech booth at the AIA Conference on Architecture in San Francisco. So you're a spec writer.
Yep.
How long have you been doing that?
Oh boy, that's hard. I started in architecture when I was 20. At a firm.
So like 3 years?
Yeah. Oh,
wow.
I love
you. You made it far.
You're my favorite person.
That's awesome.
Yeah, your total favorite person. I wore every hat in that office, but I started as a receptionist, so it took a while, and I just kept taking on more things. So
yeah.
Somewhere in that first couple years of working in that office, I started writing specs.
Wow.
I'm not going to give you how many years.
That's fine. Yep.
Nobody is
We're
doing
leaving
the
that.
math.
Yeah, we don't look backwards.
Good. No.
And you're still doing that. I mean,
I am.
It's a lot different. What's changed?
Well,
Everything's
You're
changed.
just going to make me date myself, aren't you? When I first started in that first firm, we had one computer in the whole office.
Yeah.
And it was a Tandy from Radio Shack.
Yes, I remember the Tandy brand.
Yeah, most of the listeners
No.
of a certain age are going to have no idea what that is.
Right.
And I had to put in an operating disk and then take it out and then put in a word processing disk.
Yes.
And if you wanted a line to be bold, you had to write code
Right.
in order for that one line to be bold. And I did a lot on the typewriter in those days with carbon paper, change orders, stuff. Oh my God, this makes me sound
Bringing back the
ancient. I am not ancient. I was very young when I started.
right.
So, obviously for me, writing specs is tedious. They are often, any project of any size, specs can be, sometimes I've written specs that are thousands of pages.
Yeah.
And that was, I remember putting out a spec once on our copier. It was probably a 500-page spec, one page at a time, making 50 copies of each page and laying them out on a
Self-collating, yes.
No, we didn't have the self-collating.
No, you did it.
Yeah,
You were manual collating.
Human collating.
Yes.
Technology has created so many time-saving
Yeah.
features when it comes to writing specs.
Copy-paste changed your world, right?
You have no idea. And getting rid of the, what was that stuff called? The whiteout.
Yes. Yeah.
It's really created so many efficiencies that you can really focus on being a spec writer.
Can you imagine, with the complexity of projects and the spec books nowadays are just? Can you imagine you can just see how technology enabled that, and that also is enabling the technology. It is this ecosystem that has to evolve together, or else. What? I can't even imagine how it could. I feel like it barely works now, right? It is a miracle that buildings actually get built. There's so much information that has to be processed, understood, cataloged. There's all of that side of it, and it's how is it even? You look at all of that together, you just stand back, and in the abstract of how much information has to actually get synthesized into the built environment, it's a miracle to me that it happens. And it's just it's happening all around us. It actually happens.
Is.
Yeah.
I don't think I would still be doing this had technology not made the advances it did, because I found that piece of the work back in the day to be excruciating. The flip side on the technology and all its beautiful things, one of the downsides of technology is we can't stop putting information in our documents.
Yeah.
We can't stop redoing our drawings over and over and over again, because you just push a button.
Right.
And I remember the first time I did a project evaluation on time when our office first went to AutoCAD, but after everybody was up to speed. And so I compared two apples to apples elementary schools and the time our staff took to do those projects.
Yeah.
And everybody's dying to see these numbers because they saved so much time.
Oh, no.
It took 4 times as long.
There's way more information in there now.
Yeah.
It enabled this level of detail that was nobody even could comprehend what was coming in that regard.
Well, and there was never, when because they were still drawing on Mylar and paper when I first started. Your pencils down day meant something.
Yeah.
And you,
right?
That kind of measure
done.
twice, cut once.
Yes. I just said that to somebody the other day.
Yeah. That philosophy applied to drawings at that time because you had to redraw an entire sheet.
Right.
In some cases.
Right.
And
no, we used to erase the dimension and just change the number.
I used to vacuum out those erasers. God, oh my God, I feel old. In the end, though, although I think that we don't know how to make a decision anymore, we don't know how to say this is good enough and stop here. I would be, I don't know, traveling circus or something like that now rather than a spec writer if I had to do it that way for very long.
We've talked about this before. You've shared your story on People Verse Podcast. We'll put a link to that in the show notes for this one because you shared this evolution of Charisse over the. I mean, and it's incredible. And you talked about like your job of herding cats. I remember you saying that. It's like because you sit in between. You are a design professional. You're on the design team, but you are also the bridge to the building product manufacturing side, getting the right things specified that make our buildings, right? The things that go into buildings, which buildings are made out of all the things,
right?
That process there's a lot of like, we use the same stuff. So you're not like tackling the whole thing from scratch every time, but you do have to curate all that information every single time, right? Like you've got this huge pool that you can pull from. You have to make decisions and select what those things are. What the product selection process, obviously you're bridging that gap. The design team is saying, we want to look for something new in this direction. What is that like when you're wading out into the ocean of building products? Like, what is that like? Speak to the challenge that is as a design professional.
So you said something a minute ago that I thought was kind of funny because I hear that from architects or engineers because I've worked for engineers now and have before all the time that, we use a lot of the same stuff all the time or use what we typically use. I've heard that comment my whole career. Mm-hmm. There is no what we typically use on any project. Every single product is selected specifically for that building.
Right.
You might be more familiar.
There's things you've used before. Things, right? Yeah, right.
But when I need new information, I don't know if it's fair to ask me that question based on my side activities, but my most valuable resource are product reps.
Yeah.
And I don't think our industry gives them anywhere enough credit or puts enough importance on how much time they can save me.
Yeah.
And how much they can help me get my job done right.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert on all these projects. Are you kidding? I don't have a clue.
Right? How could you be?
Yeah.
There's too many. And not only that, like even if you had the desire to, let's say you wanted to know everything about everything, there's not enough room.
No.
That's
no.
impossible.
I've already got thousands of pieces of information going through my brain every day. So for me, when I have to wade into a new arena, there's a number of ways I approach that. I did this recently. A product rep was telling me about a new product they had.
Yeah.
And the first question I usually ask is, where can I see it installed and how long has it been installed?
Yeah.
Because I want to see it installed. How is it going?
How's
what's
it performing?
It take?
Yeah.
And then how's it holding up?
Yep.
Exactly.
Jinx, you owe me a Coke.
Yeah. So it was only on one building in Portland, and I made arrangements to go out and it was under construction. And that product happened to be going up at the time.
Nice.
And so I made arrangements to go out with the rep and went and picked and poked and prodded. And can I bang on this?
Yeah.
I don't know how much I want to
pull out your keys and
that's one way I start the process.
Yeah.
Like now working in building science, the engineers I work with have brains 10 times the size of mine. And they are the ones that really, really get into the details. Building science has been different. They do want to know all the things.
Yeah.
So I do it a little differently now in that I do some initial research and then I bring it to the table.
Yeah.
With the engineers and they start throwing rocks at it. And I play the bridge of going back and saying, here are some of the problems they see. Where's this testing? What about this? We need to see it installed this way. But just generally throughout my career, if I don't know, I start like that. Sometimes I'll call up one of my product reps trusted advisors.
Somebody who was on your short list.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And I've got a pretty large short list.
More than most people, I would venture to imagine.
And I tell them, somebody I know that's familiar with that type of product, and here's what I need. Send me in the right direction. And my short list is my short list because I trust them implicitly to do exactly that.
Because?
Not try to sell me something they have.
Yeah, what's the basis for that?
Well, because they earned that trust at some point. You
actually have a relationship with them.
Right,
because you guys have this kind of shared expectation of each other, right? And I think that what gets people on the short list is this idea that they understand the value of the relationship with you, because in the long game, maybe their product's right, maybe it's not, but they are the linchpin. And that's important.
That is, and that's a piece I think a lot of manufacturers up at the top, not the reps, but at the top miss. It's like they've got, all these sales quotas for their reps and that kind of thing. And I don't give, I know I can be blunt here. I don't give a rat's about your sales quota. What I care about is getting the right product that's going to perform the way I need it to in this particular job. And if I call you and say, here's what I need, and you tell me, as much as I hate to say it, you want to talk to my competitor because they've got this, and that's really what you need, you are my...
Yeah, of course.
You got the gold star for the day, and I'm probably going to call you every time I need anything in your arena, and you're going to get a lot more jobs than walking in and being that old salesman model, which I keep driving. You and I are kindred spirits. Keep driving that home. That doesn't work anymore.
Right.
You walk in with that model, I'm probably going to get rid of
it puts you
out
off
as fast.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Because if your main goal is only making a sale and nothing else, you are not the person I want to work with.
Right.
Because I can't trust that I'm going to get the best thing I need for this building.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you have the best thing, tell me. Okay, I trust you already, so let's make that work because I know I'm getting the best thing. You've earned that trust on both sides of the table.
Yeah.
I have to earn that trust by not being a jerk when product reps come to see me and giving them time outside of just my project. Got a new thing I want to come show you. That's not always easy.
Yeah.
We deal with hundreds of reps, but I will tell you that short list gets in my door first every time.
Yes.
If I have very limited time, they're who I'm talking to first.
We built a whole academy around that idea of arming a rep in quotes to become a product category expert, so that they can go beyond their own products and in their thinking, so that they can provide you with what you need when you need it, not ever knowing what that is, and really listening to the design professional when they come in to understand the context of the phase of the project, the location of the project, what kind of contract delivery model is it, all of these things to enable them to ask you the right questions to get you what you need, because you could call them up 2 days in a row on 2 different projects in 2 different locations in 2 different design phases with 2 different delivery models, and to never just expect that they already know what you need. And so to ask the right contextual questions so that they can get you the answer that you need in the shortest amount of time possible.
And I do that all the time. We have 9 offices in 2 countries. Each office is dealing with different, environmental requirements or different codes and rules. Another one that drives me nuts is when I ask, how does it compare in cost? And
how does that conversation go usually?
Well, my response usually is, well, they say, oh, we're $1 less a square foot. I'm just making something up.
Yeah.
Okay, how does it compare in cost to install?
Yeah.
When I ask how does it compare in cost, I don't want material costs only.
Right.
Because if it takes 4 more steps to install it, that's going to cost us 4 times as much money. I need to know all of those things. When you're working like public work, you have to focus a whole lot more than, we would like to on every penny and every dollar.
Yep.
And sometimes we don't get to have, you got that good, better, best model. Well, we all want the best. But not every budget or every client is going to allow that. Developers don't always let you have the best.
Right.
They're going to flip that building. They want to get something functional up. So I keep asking questions because I know what kind of answers I'm potentially going to get that are only going to tell me part of the story. But that came from experience.
Right.
I didn't in the beginning. and you can get burned when all of a sudden, bids come in high.
They give you one number and versus installed cost, because it makes a huge difference. And design professionals need that information so that they can make a decision.
Right.
Is this going to go to the next step or not? Right? Because like you said, sometimes you just can't afford that thing. And so it's like, you want to know that up front, because if you put that into the design and then you find out later, like kind of this bait and switch thing happened, that relationship is gone. Like that trust is
and that's
gone.
Happened.
Yeah.
I have had kind of that, ended up with a product, which was perfectly good product on a project, but the install cost was way higher than another one I'd been looking at. And I've fallen for that. And it ended up with that. You made that sale. But guess what? I never called your rep again.
Right.
And that's the piece I think that's changing now all over the industry, but historically hasn't been focused.
Right.
That relationship has not had that right focus.
Outset versus a long-term outset focus.
I have reps I've talked to for 30 years.
Wow. Yeah.
That like they've retired, and it's like, oh gosh, I got to break in a new one. But I will say, and everybody knows my passion for young professionals. Yeah. The younger reps that I work with are a different animal.
How so?
They were raised by people like me.
Yeah.
We raised our children. We were just talking about this before we started. I want
you to repeat the story.
No, I'm not going to repeat that story. About raising weak women. I don't raise weak women.
Right.
But I do think, especially as Gen Xers, we came up in some weird times and recessions and all these different things that affected how we lived. Had a lot of the old school sit down, shut up, do what you're told. Parents still spanked their kids. We ran around on the streets, for hours. I know I did. I was out on my bike from early morning until my mom never knew where I was.
Right.
No cell phones. When we had our kids, I remember as a young person saying, when I have kids, I'm doing it different.
Yeah.
And I did. And I think we've empowered our kids more to explore and ask questions and have feelings and do what brings them passion.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us in our age group have done that. So these younger professionals that are in the market now have been raised to have a voice. And we weren't raised to have a voice.
Yeah.
And that makes, I think, a difference in everything because they're using that voice in their companies as well.
Right.
And that is changing the game now. More and more manufacturers every day are doing it the way we need to be doing it.
Nice.
And that's
great to hear that you're seeing that on the product rep side. It's absolutely fantastic.
Usually it's the product reps telling me that their companies say want to do it and their companies won't let them.
Right.
So that's a note out to all you bosses out there. It's an important thing to change.
Yeah.
Because it is a different world we live in, and we have two gigantic generations, both of them are bigger than the boomers, coming behind us.
Yep.
And they are not going to tolerate the old model.
We talk about this on various podcasts, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Well, you're at the AIA
People
conference.
Don't listen enough.
No,
so I got to keep saying.
You got to keep saying. You got to say the same story over and over until it actually lands, and then you got to keep telling it because it didn't land with everybody at the same time.
No, exactly.
Well, you're at the AIA conference on architecture 2023, San Francisco, and I'm just wondering. I know it just kind of kicked off. Did you go to the morning keynote, or what are your plans for the show? Get general feeling of the energy, because this is the one place where our two communities come together for 2 days.
Yeah,
right?
It really is. And to be perfectly honest, it's my first full AIA convention. So I am I did a lot of homework before I came here, but I'm a little bit starry-eyed and overwhelmed right now.
You were talking about how full your schedule is, and it's like,
but
there's all the things you want to do, there's the things you have to do, and there's the things that are probably not going to happen, but it is kind of overwhelming, the amount of activity that's going on all at one place at one time. Yeah,
so the keynote this morning was one of those things I signed up for but didn't make it.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm signed up for a few educational sessions. My responsibilities with the podcast don't leave me a lot of time to do too many of those, which is fine.
But you are here.
But I am here.
Thank you.
And I am here.
Yes.
Talking on your podcast.
Thank you. Yeah.
But I am meeting some incredible people. I've had some of my former CDT students already come find me who I've never met.
Cool.
Went to 3 parties last night. I have 3 more tonight.
Yep.
That's getting challenging, which is probably why I didn't make the keynote this morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did reschedule my flight home Saturday so I could see our Saturday morning keynote, which I wasn't going to be able to because I'm flying home Saturday. So I think the advice I got on Twitter was sign up for everything you think you want to do and then just wing it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm doing.
Yep.
I'm just like, I want to go over there. I want to go, so I don't know. But I'm trying to get.
You got to have like that open-mindedness of just like what presents itself.
Yeah.
What's the fun thing I want to do right now?
Well, and I've been around the business long enough that I don't need to attend every single educational session and cram. I mean, I'm always interested in learning, but some of the ones I really wanted to go to weren't even in a time slot I could attend.
Yeah.
But I walked up to your booth and there's somebody I know from CSI, and I just trying to walk over here from where I'm going to be.
That's just going to keep happening, right? You're just going to keep getting stopped.
And then I feel rude. I really want to talk to you, but I've got to be somewhere.
But I've got things to do. Yeah.
So my goal this year is I'm just going to stick my fingers in every pie.
Yeah.
And see which pie I like the best. And
that doesn't sound like something you would do normally.
No, never.
Well, thank you for hanging out. I think the best thing for me about this show is the people. We get to see each other. We're so busy all the time. And online just doesn't count in the same way that something like this does. So,
well, you're an Oregonian now.
I am. I'm not.
So
we can make.
I have to accept you even more because you live in my state. Although technically, you got to put in a little more time before you get to call yourself an Oregonian.
At least a year. I can't even buy a fishing license until I've been there a year and get the state price. So.
It depends on how avid of an Oregonian you talk to. You're going to laugh at this, but back when I was probably in my early 20s. And it's been going on ever since then, but there was this particularly large influx of Californians moving to Oregon. And it just irritated Oregonians so much.
Of course, yeah.
That they had this bumper sticker made that said, go back to California or go home Californians or something like that.
Right.
Like everybody in the city of Portland had these things.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, go back.
How welcoming.
We don't want you to ruin our state. I mean, it's been going on ever since, and it's great, but we like to joke about it.
Yep.
We're happy to get new people. Welcome to our state.
Everybody that I have come up to has been so nice. It has been a breath of fresh air from where I moved from, in the LA area, for sure. Yeah.
Excuse me. That's typical in Oregon.
Yeah.
And we're, pretty left-leaning.
Yeah.
Granola, people-loving kind of folks in Oregon. So,
outdoorsy, yeah. I mean, that's why we moved.
My backyard is a forest.
Yeah.
And I live in the middle of the city of Portland.
You've got that great cocktail deck.
2 of them.
Sunsets and
double cocktail decks.
Awesome. Well, Cherise, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
It was a pleasure.
Now I got to get to work.
All right. Good luck.
Okay, thanks.
And that is a wrap for this episode. Peopleverse is powered by Tect and produced by Tect Media. For more episodes and access to the show notes, visit peopleverse.fm. To learn more about Tect, visit tect.com, where you can experience the shortest path from keyword search to local building product expertise.